Maggie here. This is my first video where I actually talk, so I'm kind of uncomfortable, but I want to talk about painting self-portraits, face insecurities, and have a bit of a philosophical discussion on whether or not we can actually see reality. In the video is a time-lapse of a self-portrait I recently painted. I've painted or drawn a few self-portraits in my life, but I've never really been pleased with them, and it was generally unpleasant to actually make them because I'd get frustrated. I couldn't accurately recreate reality on the page or canvas, and I'd have to stare at my face for a long time and dwell on all my insecurities. And I'd put these insecurities into my work. I'd either avoid drawing parts of my face that made me insecure, like my under eye lines, or I'd be very picky about which photo I was going to use as a reference. It had to be the most flattering photo, or I'd over exaggerate the parts I consider flaws and then become really depressed about the whole thing. So, although I'd heard about the benefits of painting them, I really avoided them. That is until recently when Morokai on YouTube made a video recommending doing them. And by the way, I recommend his Discord channel as well. So I gave it a try again. I want to talk a bit about the core reasons I've struggled with self-portraits, about seeing with the mind. When looking at our face, are we actually seeing reality? I'm sure most people have seen themselves in a photo which would assume to be reasonably accurate, and thought, do I really look like that? But there are a few reasons why photos are not the best way to see your face accurately, like focal length distortion and lens distortion. But surely a mirror is going to be accurate, or better yet, the reflection of a reflection is accurate. You're seeing it with your own eyes, at the right focal lengths, unflipped, so it must be accurate to reality, right? Then you get into what's actually seeing is, taking in light information and processing it in our minds. This isn't straightforward like what a computer does. We've evolved to take a lot of shortcuts. These heuristics are good for thinking and making decisions quickly, but reality gets distorted along the way. If you've ever read Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, you'll have read about this there. That, especially as children, we see objects in the world as symbolic versions of themselves, not as they truly are. We don't even see all of what we think we see. We have a blind spot in the middle of our field of vision, and our brain fills in the gaps, so there's a lot of extrapolating going on. There's also the fact that optical illusions exist, which shows that there are many ways in which our minds can be fooled. The shortcuts it takes while interpreting visual inputs means that we can never really, truly trust what we see. And that doesn't even get into the fact that we as humans evolved to be extremely good at processing faces, human faces, very quickly. Unless we have prosopagnosia, we can recognize faces in a split second without having to analyze and compare every feature to our memories of faces. When it comes to my own face, I sometimes can't make sense of it, as if turning that facial recognition system in my mind on myself makes it go into a weird loop. Kinda looks like I'm an alien. How can we be seeing reality accurately with this feature of our brains picking and choosing what information to actually take in? And emotions play an important role in how we see things as well. There have been times I've seen a photo of myself and thought, it's the most awful picture, gotten very depressed about it. And later I've looked at it, maybe a few days or years later, and I felt very differently about it. In certain emotional states, I'll be actively looking for flaws and ignoring everything else. I'll be standing very close to the mirror to see every detail of my face, and I won't see the whole picture. emotions can also affect how you see others. If you know someone, their face isn't so important to you. It's just their mask that you instantly recognize and feel the themness of the person. When with a stranger, the only information you have at first is their appearance, so that's what you focus on. Another phenomena I've personally experienced and have heard others talk about too is the effect of filters. If you use something like Snapchat filters on your face, it affects how you see your face afterwards. If you stare at your face with a feminizing feature on for a few hours, and suddenly you'll think you look extremely masculine when you next look in the mirror. It's a really weird effect. Culture also affects how we see ourselves. Cultural ideas of beauty change with both space and time. Different societies have different ideals, and different time periods have different ideals. The beauty standards fluctuate wildly, even in a single decade. What I was insecure about as a teenager is no longer the thing to be insecure about. Now it's something else. So, with emotions and culture, our opinions of our and others' faces are in flux, dependent on many factors. And what even is a face? We separate and label the different features, but they are actually all a part of the whole that we split up and labeled. The blanket truth is that each feature merges into the next, and our face changes with time, even during a single day, like every other thing in the universe is constantly changing, never the same. I like to think of our faces like trees. I don't think any tree is ugly, they're just trees. Gnarled, smooth, curved, straight, all lovely in their own ways. The textures, the shape of the leaves, the complex biology, the history, the interaction with the environment and the ecosystem. A tree is a multitude, just like you. And you are not your mask. Your mask exists to help others recognize you so they can interact with you. Something for you to emote through, talk through, see through, smell through, and taste through, hear through. There are other uses of this mask, like attracting a partner and advertising your social group to others. And unfortunately, people make judgments based on a mask that we cannot change, at least not easily. But to me, this mask is first and foremost a way to interact with the world and other humans, to share ideas and to make art. Which brings me back to self-portraits. For this self-portrait, I initially searched for a while to find the perfect photo reference, and that made me very frustrated because they were all wrong, all unflattering, all showing my flaws. Eventually I gave up and I just picked one I took right there on my phone right then, and I made do with that one. I tried to very accurately capture the lighting and form of my face. Deconstructing this object I usually give so much meaning to into a collection of shapes, values, colours, and edges. And when meaning is removed, you can see the absolute beauty of those shapes and colours, seeing your face as it truly is. This line under my eyes is now a soft desaturated orange in contrast to a more peachy pale pink, and that combination of colours and shapes is pleasing. I tried to be a bit adventurous with colours, feeding in a bit more variation than the photos showed, to play around and express myself a bit more, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I started with a line drawing that I tried to make as accurate as I could, and at first I exaggerated certain things like the lines under my eyes, but while rendering the picture I realised I had exaggerated them, and then I realised that was because my brain exaggerates them in my mind. They are always something I've zoned in on whenever I've looked at my face. It was interesting to realise that in such an obvious way, to correct my internal symbol of my face so directly. And as a result, I think I've learned to accept my face a bit more than before. I recommend doing self-portraits if you feel like you've had struggles similar to these. Struggles in accepting your face as it really is. Acceptance, equanimity, I feel these are better than outright revulsion or adulation of your face. acceptance is neutrality, not giving the mask undue importance. And it doesn't mean you can't find beauty in your face or want to show it to others, only that if others do not like your face, you don't get sucked into an emotional downward spiral and instead realize it's just a mask.